Hello everybody, my name is Jay. I'm one of the expert IELTS teachers here at E2 Language. If you're going to take your IELTS test, then you better prepare. What we're going to do in this live class is we're going to look at IELTS Academic Writing Task 1. We're going to look at multiple pie charts. So on test day, you turn over your paper and this is what you see. You see not one, not two, but 3 pie charts. How likely is it that you'll see 3 pie charts? Well, it's not unlikely, okay? So you'll never see one because you need to compare data. Well, I shouldn't say that, maybe you will. More often than not, you'll see 2. But in the rare chance that you may see 3, it's worth preparing for this. And it does happen. I've had people tell me that they've seen 3 tables, 3 line graphs. So certainly there will be 3 pie charts as a possibility. I want to teach you how to structure up your writing so you can tackle this one accurately and correctly. Now, just for your interest, I think admittedly in the IELTS there would be less categories. Okay, you'd probably have 4 categories or 5 categories. This one I've made particularly hard because I also want to teach you something about selecting the right data. Cool. So what's the structure we're going to use? Well, we're looking at 3 graphs, not 1, not 2, but 3. So we're going to use this structure here. We're going to write a summary, a very short summary of a single sentence or maybe 2 sentences. Then we're going to have in our first major paragraph, we're going to talk about the USA, one of those pie charts. We're going to describe in a single sentence. Then we're going to compare in 3 or 4 sentences. And we'll do the same in paragraph 2 and paragraph 3 for Canada and the UK. All right. I'm going to walk you through this. So this is what your paper will look like on test day when you've finished after 20 minutes. You're going to have the summary at the top here. Okay, here's your summary. This is just 1 sentence. We're going to first focus on the first pie chart, the USA. We're going to have 1 sentence here, which is a general overview of key features. Then we're going to write maybe two to 4 sentences comparing the data. We'll do the same here, and we'll do the same here with Canada and the UK. Cool? All right, let's write the summary. So how do we do that? Well, you can see in this box here, it says, the pie charts show the percentage of car ownership by make in 3 countries in 2015. What you need to do to write your summary sentence is simply rewrite this description in your own words to say the exact same thing. Now, to say the exact same thing, sometimes you cannot use a synonym because synonyms very often say something slightly different. So this first job, this first task of writing the summary sentence is about word choice, choosing the most precise word. Try to use synonyms if you can, or rearrange the sentence that I just showed you. But think about whether it's saying the exact same thing. Because if it says something slightly different, your score will decrease because the examiner will think you have misunderstood this graph. Let me read you mine. The pie charts illustrate in percentage terms the ownership of various car types in the USA, Canada, and the UK in 2015. Now let's read this one again. The pie charts show the percentage of car ownership by make in 3 countries in 2015. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to write your fantastic summary sentence starting now. All right, I'm beginning to think that's too much time. Just let me have a check of the answers here. Right, let me read a few to you and I'll point out some good things and some bad things, hopefully no bad things. The given pie charts represent the types of cars owned by people in Canada, UK, and USA in percentages in the year 2015. There are some tiny little errors in that, but otherwise you have said the exact same thing. Vidi, well done. That's really good. Okay, I've got another one here on YouTube Live. So this is live. This is not a recording. Let me read you this one. The pie charts depict, I think that's correct. That's a good verb. Depict the information about the percentage of car manufacturers. Car manufacturers? No. Car ownership. It's about car ownership, not manufacturers, in 3 different regions in 2015. So you were close, but that little error, the difference between ownership and manufacturing, the IELTS examiner, it's the first sentence of your description. He or she has just read that and gone, uh-oh, we've got to, well, maybe you could pick it up following on, but you just shouldn't make those mistakes. Cool. Hopefully that's enough time. If it isn't, you can pause, go back, watch it again. If you're on YouTube, click that subscribe button, please, so you can get alerts whenever I go live or one of the other teachers goes live. It's very important. You can also leave a comment and be lovely if you want. Right, we've done the easiest part. Now we're going to move on to writing our paragraphs where we describe key features and compare data. We're going to start with this one here. Let's just think about this one for a bit, okay? So we're looking at car ownership in the USA in 2015. So what have we got here? What have we got? Okay. Obviously, the biggest piece of the pie is, in fact, at the top of the list. So this is number 1. So Volkswagen at 20.7. We've got Ford at 13.2. We've got General Motors at 11%. We've got Renault Nissan at, when you're writing this, don't worry about the other words. Just forget corporation and just call them Toyota, for example. Okay, fine. Now, I look at this. I don't know about you, but I look at this and I think, okay, this one, and this one account for more than 50%. That's quite a feature of this graph. Okay, I don't want to go into detail. I just want to describe in my first sentence the most significant feature of this pie chart, which for me is that this accounts for, I won't be precise, but it's certainly more than 50%. I could add it up. You can do a little bit of mathematics if you want, but you don't need to. Now, then I'm going to look at some comparisons. Let me read you mine. Car ownership in the USA was dominated by 2 major car makes. Okay, I did it a bit differently. Sorry, I showed you the 50%, but in fact, when I was writing this before, I did something slightly different, which doesn't matter. That's fine. Let me read you this one. Car ownership in the USA was dominated by 2 major car makes that accounted for nearly 40% of car ownership, namely Volkswagen and Ford. In addition, General Motors, Renault Nissan, BMW Mini, and PSA made up another 36%. In contrast, car ownership also consisted of smaller percentage shares, including Hyundai at 6.4%, FCA at 3.3%, and Honda at 2.2%. Now, one thing that you will notice that I have not done is include all of those car makes because that's impossible, okay? I talked about the 2 major ones accounting for 40%. I then talked about the next 3 accounting for 36%. And then I just picked 3 of the smaller ones and said Honda, Hyundai, and whatever FCA is made up this, and this percentage, okay? In other words, you don't have enough words to describe all of those pieces of the pie. Describe the main ones, pick a few small ones, and that's that. It's your turn. Now I'm going to give you 5 minutes to write this paragraph. Describe the key features of this graph in 1 sentence. You can do it like me, 40%, or you can talk about more than 50%. Then in 3 to 4 sentences, describe and compare car ownership. Away you go. Okie dokie, that's 5 minutes per paragraph. Sounds about right. That will give us 15 minutes for the 3 paragraphs, couple of minutes for the first one, couple of minutes to edit our work, and that's 20 minutes. All right, in USA, car ownership, that highly percentage, about 40%, depend on the 3 main companies, Volkswagen, Ford Motors, and General Motors, and about 2.3% rely on another 3 companies, which are Renault, Nissan, BMW, and PSA. Other than those companies have smaller percentage in the USA. Not bad. Sentence structure, blah, 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 blah. With your final sentence, if you do choose some of those smaller pieces of the pie, do mention their percentages. Just say Honda, Hyundai, and Toyota accounted for 2.3, 3.2, and 2.1 respectively, or some sort of structure like that. It's good. Let me read one more. Have we got any on YouTube Live? Here we go. Ali Najem, more than 50% of the cars made in the USA by 2015 were owned by Volkswagen, Ford Motors, General Motors, and Renault Nissan companies, where Volkswagen was the highest with 20.7%. Good, looking good. The other next major producers are or were. Your first sentence was past tense, were. Now you flick to are. This is 2015, remember? It's in the past. So all of our verbs need to be was, were, produced, etc. The other next major producers were BMW, PSA, and Hyundai with more than 20%, which together less than Volkswagen alone. Good, not bad. Good, 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 good. Cool. Let's keep moving because we're going to write the next paragraph. Before you do that, you people on YouTube, please click like, leave a comment, subscribe, and share this with your friends so they don't suffer on test day. Canada, here we go. So we're going to describe the key features in one sentence. Then we're going to describe and compare the ownership by car make, for example, Volkswagen or BMW, in 3 to 4 sentences. Mine says this. Canada's car ownership showed similarities to the USA's, with Ford and General Motors accounting for a significant market share at well over 20%, while Toyota accounted for 14.8%. 10 other makes made up, that's my mistake, just over 50% of the rest of car ownership, with FCA Chrysler, Honda, and Nissan making up significant proportions at 12.5%, 9.5%, and 8.2% respectively. Okay, that's mine. Here's yours. You have 5 minutes. Please describe Canada's car ownership. All right. I may have been reading the newspaper while you did that. Let's have a look. Lubna, the car ownership, where are we? We're not in USA anymore. We're up to Canada. So here we go. Lubna again. The Canada, sorry, not the Canada, just Canada's, okay? The USA, yes, because that's just the name of it. It's just called the United States of America, but not the America. Anyway, Canada's car ownership showed substantial growth. No, it didn't show any growth at all because it's just showing 2015. So we don't know if it's grown or if it's decreased. So there should be no words like growth in this, okay? There should be phrases like accounted for, or Volkswagen accounted for 16% of Canada's car ownership. Okay, so there's no growth here. The two major companies that dominate are the smaller companies. I'll read another one. That one's off track. Hopefully in the third paragraph, you can clean that up. Canada's car ownership shows a similar pattern like the USA. Fine. Major parts of car ownership is taken by brands like General Motors, Ford, and Toyota, which contributes around 45% of the total car ownership. On the other hand, brand contributing the lowest percentages are Mazda and Daimler and BMW respectively. That's fine, but you need to put the percentages in for those last three ones. You could have said at 2.2, 3.3, and 4.4% respectively. Remember to put in this paragraph, you need to include the percentages, okay? So let's just go back. Let's go back and have a look at these graphs for a second, okay? Now, it's just to 2015. So we're comparing three countries in 2015. So there in fact is no trend. There's no growth. There's no decrease. We just don't know. It's just a snapshot in time. So then what are we describing then? Well, we're describing proportions. Okay, we're describing how much in terms of percentages. I can't think of the sentence, car ownership. So the sentences that we want to write will be something like this. Okay, we want to start with this as the subject, I think. General Motors. So let's just write GM accounted for. This is a nice phrase that you might want to remember. Accounted for. And now it's accounted, past tense because it's 2015, 17.9%. Okay, that's a very simple sentence, but that's the kind of sentence that you need to write. General Motors accounted for 17.9%, while Ford, what's another synonym here, made up just or less at 15.3%. So you want to sort of do a bit of a comparison between these two, or you might want to just describe this chunk and then compare it to these ones here. But again, there's no trends here. We're just describing pieces of the pie. So let's try this again with the final paragraph, which is the UK. We want to describe the key features in a single sentence. That's our sort of topic sentence, what you first notice about the pie, and also try and connect it back to the USA and Canada. I'll show you in a second. Then we want to describe and compare ownership by car type or car make in 3 or 4 sentences. So here's mine. Car ownership in the UK was similar to both USA's and Canada's, with the most significant difference being that Hyundai Kia accounted for 11.2%, significantly higher than the other two countries. Mazda was also more popular in the UK at 3.9%, compared to 1.8% in Canada and no representation in the USA. So how many percentage signs have I got in here? Well, I've got the 11.2, and then I talked about 3.9, 1.8. So there's not many in here. But if we look at this one here, I've got 20%, 14.8%, I've got 50%, I've got 12.5, 9.5, and 8.2, okay? So here 3, here 6, fine. What about this one? I've got 40%, I've got 6.4, 36, 3.3, and 2.2, so I've got 5. So you want to aim for around well, you know, between 3 and 6, I guess. But the important thing is that you include percentages in your paragraph here, because this is where we're sort of comparing things. Now, you'll notice that I've talked about Mazda. And if we go back to the graph, Mazda is not a significant part. Where is the graph? Oh, let's just talk about it here. That's fine. So I said that UK was similar to the USA for Ford and General Motors. And then I mentioned something about Chrysler, I believe. Then what I did is I looked at the other pie charts and I looked at Mazda. And I saw, okay, the UK has got more people who own Mazdas than the other countries. So I said that it's at 3.9%. Well, Canada's at whatever, 2.1%. And the USA actually just didn't have it at all. So there's something to learn here, which is selecting which things you're going to compare. You have to make these decisions on test day, and it's hard because you're under stress and pressure. There's a lot riding on what you're doing. But you need to be clear and think, okay, so I've connected that. I've talked about the main parts. And then you look closely and you think, okay, Mazda's interesting. Why? Because in the UK, there was higher ownership of Mazda compared to Canada. And in fact, in the US, it wasn't mentioned at all. So you can write a nice sentence like that and say, ownership of Mazdas was highest in the UK at 3.9% compared to Canada at 2.9%, whereas in the USA, there was no representation. So I'm making those comparisons. Why Mazda? Well, I thought it was something interesting, but again, it's about selecting what you think is interesting. Right, so let me get rid of this. Whoops. Okay, whoops. Here we go. You have 5 minutes to do the UK, to describe the percentage of ownership of different cars in 5 minutes, starting now. Cool. All right. I'm just looking at YouTube Live. There's someone writing rude stuff on there who I've just kicked out. Why not? I can do that. Okay, great. Let me read you this one. Car ownership in the UK was quite different from the USA and Canada. Good, nice description of the key features, a nice comparison and linking back to the other countries. With major contributions from Ford Motor Company, Chrysler, and General Motors with 15.7, 15 point, whatever it is, 13.5 respectively. Good. That's a nice opening sentence. Very well done. You've not only described those key features, but you've also made a link comparing back to the other countries, which is fantastic. Okay. Let me just read you this one sentence. It's very good. Hyundai accounted for 11.2%. Well, it started off well. Let me just tell you that. All right, let me just read you a couple from here. Let's have another go. Let's have another look here. Okay, let me read you Santosh's because he's pasted it in a million times. In the UK, ownership of cars showed similar proportions to that of the other two countries, accounting for other two countries. Full stop, new sentence. Ford accounted for 15.75%, followed by FCA with 15.65%, whereas BMW, Daimler, Subaru, and accounted for less than 3% of ownership. In addition, Hyundai, Toyota, and Honda shared a similar percentage of car ownership, accounting for 11.2, 10.8, and 9.3% respectively. Good, well done, well done. Good. Just hoping I haven't scared Lubna off there. Here we go. The UK's car ownership showed similar trends when compared to the USA and Canada. Not similar trends. Again, there's no time here. There's no, it's not 2014, 15, 16. So there's no trajectory of trends, but you could have said proportions, showed similar proportions or similar numbers of ownership when compared to the USA and Canada. Good. Ford Motors accounted for 15.75% of car ownership, and this was closely followed by Chrysler at 15.65%. Subaru accounted for 2.3% of cars only and is similar to Canada that had 3.3% of cars in 2015. Much better, Lubna. Well done. You've got it now. Good. All right, let's keep moving and let's just recap what we have learned in this fabulous lesson. If you're on YouTube, you haven't clicked like, please do that. So what should you do on test day if you see 3 pie charts? Well, you should write not 4 paragraphs. You're going to write a summary sentence here where you just rewrite that task description. We did that. Your first paragraph will be here. You're going to describe in a sentence the key features for the USA. Then you're going to compare it to 1 sentence and 3 to 4 sentences of a comparison. Okay, cool. You're going to do the same for Canada. You're going to do the same for the UK. You're going to make some sort of connections between the countries. You know how we said Canada was similar to the US and the UK was similar to both the USA and Canada, except for Toyota, which is blah, 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 blah. So we've made some connections back. We've done everything that the IELTS has asked us to do. That's what we ought to do. This is what it will look like on the paper in front of you. You're going to see the 4 parts, the 3 main paragraphs, the single summary sentence at the top. This is 189 words. I absolutely urge you to count your words on test day, or at least have a very good idea of what they look like on that piece of paper. Because if you write under the word count, which 23% of people do, you're going to lose a band score, okay? 1 whole band score, maybe even more. It's ridiculous, I know. Count your words, especially for the essay as well. You need to write more than 250. If you don't, you won't be getting 8. I'll tell you that much. Cool. Guys, if you're on YouTube, you want to join in these live classes, go to e2language.com. You'll see a button where you can join the IELTS live classes. You can register for them. If you're a free user or a paid user, no. If you're a free user, you feel like you want to have some one-on-one tutorials with expert teachers, get some writing feedback, get full access to our online course, then you can do that by upgrading to a paid subscription. If you need any help at all, just sign up for free and get started that way. I'm going to leave it there. I'm going to answer some questions for the paid members in the webinar. So thanks for coming. Right, let me do some Q&A here. Any questions? When is the next masterclass, Joyel says. Joyel, I'll let you know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Joyel, can I ask you a question, which is, were they effective with the PDF, with the printable PDF? Nelissa, do we need a conclusion? No. In the essay, yes. In this description, no. You're not concluding anything. There's nothing to conclude. There's no opinions. You're just describing. So there's no conclusion needed. Anand, Jay, your second test score. I'm still waiting for the review. So I'm not going to say anything until I get the review. I can tell you that I'm going to take it for the third time though. My pursuit of getting 9s. Is it possible? I don't know. I think I'll give up on the third time, to be honest, because I don't know. Is it possible? I don't know. Can we write a percent? Can we write the word percent instead of writing the symbol percent? You should just write the symbol percent because it's more efficient, I believe. Any more questions? All right, let me go to YouTube. Okay, so somebody's asking about the difference in scoring between task 1 and task 2. So task 2 is worth 66%. So it's worth 2/3. Task 1 is worth 1/3. Hence, you spend 20 minutes on task 1 and 40 minutes on task 2 on the essay, okay? MD Tafile on YouTube Live asks, should we maintain any paragraph structure in this? Yes, let me show you again. This is what it should look like on test day there. So you can see clearly the delineations between my paragraphs, right? Cool, I think that's all. Maybe not. Any more questions? Excellent, good, Joyel. I'll keep that in mind. Okay, here's another question. Do we need to include all of the data or just the most prominent information? Yes, it's about selecting. Obviously, there was too many car types to describe. You would have written 500 words. So we have to select carefully and be intelligent with our selections. Amreen, yes, I'm receiving your messages, but no, I'm not going to mark your writing. Which tense will be appropriate? Excellent question. Here we go. Let's look at this for verb tense, okay? Now, remember, we're talking about 2015. When is this? Is this the future? Is this the past, the present? It's the past, okay? So this is different. This has a different verb tense, but look at this. Was dominated. That's a passive sentence there that accounted. In addition, general matter, made, make, made, past tense. Consisted. Canada's car ownership showed. So what I'm using here is past tense in all 3 of these paragraphs here. Now, if I look at the first sentence, it's different. It's written in the present simple. The pie charts illustrate. Why? Because the pie charts aren't in the past. What I'm doing is they illustrate permanently, ever presently. So I use present simple there, but apart from that, I use past simple and that's it. You may have to choose different verbs on test day. I'm not sure. Okay, here's a great question. Structures for the tasks are becoming more. So how can we memorize it? All you really need to do is practice on a single graph, a double graph, and a multiple graph. If you do that, the principles apply to pie charts, bar charts, and line graphs, and tables as well. The only different one, is diagrams processes. Okay, so you need to practice. You need to practice. You can't do this intellectually. You need to put pen to paper. Okay, here's a good question. Should we differ our words and our verbs? For example, should we use different synonyms? Well, account for, made up. I can't think of any other synonyms, so I use them several times. I think it's fine. As long as they're precise, remember. Mohammed, should we mention more about relative data in this type of question? Yes, you're definitely comparing. So you can watch this video again, see the comparisons that I've made in my paragraphs. You know, sentences like while, although, in contrast, these sorts of sentences are comparative sentences. Alifa, please send your query to hello@e2language.com. Here's a good question from Gopal. Why doesn't IELTS tell us our mistakes in detail after the exam? That would be fabulous if you receive detailed feedback about why you got 5.5 or 6.5 or 7.5. Well, I can tell you that that is not going to happen because that would be a very expensive procedure for IELTS to do. Currently, they spend 3 minutes marking your essay. Is it and? A very short amount of time they spend marking your papers. So they're not going to give you feedback. That's not going to happen, but it's a good idea. I agree. All right, cool. I'm not sure about that one. Alifa, Rumila, yes, we have grammar lessons. You can type in E2 words and no, what's it called? E2 Learn English. We have grammar lessons up there. Guys, I'm going to bid you farewell. Thanks very much for coming along. I appreciate it. Do come along to the next live classes. Sign up for free at E2 Language. And if you need help, do think about upgrading to a paid account. That would be good. I'll see you soon. Ta-ta.